Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to be working on a Fin-Nor reel. This is the Fin-Nor Lethal. It's a 60 sized fishing reel. It's been used in the ocean. Came to me by way of Captain Harry, who asked me to tune up his reels and get them ready for the spring run. Then it says, you can tell it's a large capacity, well made reel, and a little bit of an unfortunate turn of events for Fin-Nor, as Fin-Nor was sold off by the company that owned Zebco. It's called Rather Products. And well, when it was sold off to Pure Fishing, which owns Penn, they basically have been discontinuing the fishing reels and focusing on Fin-Nor sunglasses. Well, this may be the last of a proud line of fishing reels that originated all the way back in the 1930s in Miami. Well, we're going to get started on this. We're going to take all the pieces and parts off and show you how to tune this one up, how it's made, and how to keep it running for a long time to come. If you like these types of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe. If you do subscribe, please use the notification button. And if you like the video, please like the video in the comment section below. Okay, we're going to do it a couple of different ways here. We can remove the handle in the lower case because this does not have a lip that goes up through. Might as well take the spool off. I was thinking of taking the spool and the shaft off at the same time, but we're going to service the drag washers, so we might as well at least go ahead and do that. And while we're at it, we will kind of get a peek here. You've got 2 ball bearings inside that spool and a click ratchet mechanism underneath. We're going to continue then. We're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 4 side plate screws, and we'll see what the inside is like. It's a fairly straightforward reel. What I have done is something that I recommend everybody do. If you haven't worked on a reel in a while, or if you're curious about what the reel is, or maybe it's the first time you're seeing it, go out to the internet. This one came from a site called Reel Schematic, and pull the schematic for your version of the reel that will show you a burst diagram of the reel, and you'll have an understanding of what it is to expect as you take the pieces and parts off. So we're removing the side plate screws now. When I remove those pieces, I put those into a parts tray. That's for safekeeping. I know where they are. That's my version of how to manage parts that come off of reels. There are a lot of different ways to manage the pieces and the parts that you remove. Just pick one. Some people like to take them sequentially and line them up on a towel or something, non-skid mat, so that, well, you put them back in the order that you took them off. Speaking of taking, one of the things you might want to do is take pictures. That'll help you as well. The bearings are substantial. They're pretty much the industry standard bigger bearing. We took the 4 screws off. We should be able to remove the side plate. We've got the side plate off, and again, it's not a weakling bearing by any stretch of the imagination. This is hard to see, but I believe we have a Torx screw. That's kind of unusual. Right? What do you have the outside in Phillips head, and the internals is a Torx screw? I don't know, but it appears that we have a Torx screw holding on the crossline block and axle shaft, so we will remove that. This is a Torx T9. If you're working on the reel, if you're wondering what tools need to be gathered so that you can do it correctly, T9 Torx. The axle shaft came out nice and smooth, so we don't have to worry about a bent axle shaft. I did test the reel prior to taking all of these things apart, and you can see it's a very straightforward design and a rather simple design, one that's pretty much been an industry standard for a very long time. It has 2 things. The main gear is going to turn the pinion gear, which is going to turn the rotor up top, and the back end of that gear is going to turn a crosswind block, which is going to make the axle shaft go up and down because it has that offset stud on it here. I take my pieces and parts off. I like to clean them right away and put them in a safe place. So my safe place is that parts tray. Back to some of the ways that people have managed parts. I've seen examples where folks have used egg cartons. Other folks have used metal bins for like parts and the like. Whatever is convenient for you. This organized chaos is convenient for me. And I also have a little bit of experience in knowing what I'm looking for as I get to pieces and parts, putting them back together again. But you don't want to lose them, and a lot of the small pieces and parts can get incidentally knocked off to the side, and then, well, you're out of luck, right? You got to go find that part, take time out of your repair, or worse, you may have to order that part, and hopefully that part is available. We just talked about this one being sold off. You can still get Fin-Nor parts. Those parts are being managed by the Penn Group in Philadelphia, even though they probably did not make the reel or have the reel made for them. When they acquired the company, it's almost 2 years now, but when they acquired the company, they did acquire the responsibility for the repair parts and service. So if you dial the Penn parts line, you will be able to get the parts you need for your Fin-Nor if they're still around. Of course, if there's a weakness in a reel, usually those parts get consumed pretty quickly, and, well, you may just be out of luck. All right, we've just removed the lock cap. That brings a rotor nut into play. For this, I'm going to find a deep socket. I keep my sockets close at hand. That way, if I need one, there we go. I don't have to stop or put down my work and go search for one. I'd rather just pick it up by reaching over. You can hear from the clank of the ratchet on that side plate that there is a metal casing for this reel. We've removed the rotor set. We can remove the rotor. Underneath the rotor, we have some kind of pot metal holder for your pinion gear and your anti-reverse. A good place to take a picture. That will assure you that if you get confused, you'll have a reference point. My pictures I take, well, they're videos. You don't need to take videos. Any image capture device will work. Use a digital camera, use your smartphone, use your tablet, use whatever you can. Heck, go take an old-fashioned Polaroid camera picture if you like. All right, there's 2 of these. This is a good time to mention if you have any questions on this or any reel. Maybe you're working on a reel and you have a question about that reel. If you leave that question in the comment section, I will try to answer that for you. These are a little tight. Just gonna put a little penetrating oil on there as I work it through. I don't want to strip the head. One of the things you like to do if you're going to get to do this on a regular basis is work on your patience. Sometimes things don't go as fast as you would like them to go. Don't worry it, just take your time. You will be rewarded in the end. Alright, I think we're almost out on that. It's got a very small Phillips head, which is causing a little bit of the issue here. Okay, those 2 go in another corner of my box. I should have done this while I was just spraying down that nut, but I'm going to use penetrating oil on the seams where the bail meets and on the line roller. Now we can remove the instant anti-reverse. And we have 2 more screws holding that bearing and gear shaft on. Everything's coming in pairs here. You do want to make certain that you take care of these small parts. We should be able to just pull up and out on this now. And now we have the body with the exception of that back bearing, completely cleaned up and out. It says it has 7 ball bearings. We saw 2 on the axle shaft. We have 2 for the main gear. We have 1 that's behind the oscillation gear. I suspect the others are in the handle. Well made reel. Okay, I'm going to start the reassembly then, the rebuild, by oiling the bearing that's in the back. This is a shielded bearing, so it will absorb the oils. And then on your anti-reverse, you don't oil. All you do is clean that center shaft. If it gets grease on it, it can slip. This is a dry friction device, so you want to make sure that it's clean so that it performs optimally. And underneath here, we have the little separator. Okay, let's start by taking care of what we took off last. Make that go back in first. Oil the bearing. Refer to your schematic as needed. If you have a good memory and don't need it, then just know it's there in case. I've inspected the teeth. I've cleaned the teeth with a bristle brush. Now I'm lubricating with fishing reel grease. This is Penn Precision reel grease. Not because Fin-Nor is now a part of Penn, but because it's a good grease to use. And I only recommend using fishing reel grease. Okay, just drop my brush on the floor. We're going to use that as an opportunity to clean the brush and change over the paper towel. We have our shaft, our freshly oiled bearing. We can reseat that into the case. Make sure that the bottom goes into this little holder here and that you're flush on the case. There were the 2 screws that we removed. They can go back in now. They use the lip of the screw as a retention clamp on this bearing. And me and little screws, we don't get along very well. We don't play well together. So here's a little something if you didn't notice it. This black collar has 2 little notches in it. They align with the bigger notches because they have to fit around your screws. So one way to do this is to remove that collar that you just put on. Bring your inner sleeve for that anti-reverse clutch over. Bring your collar with the little notches in it on so that it fits inside that screw. Then bring your tie down on and get those 2 big screws. Again, me and these screws, well, we don't play well together, but that's okay. These are big enough that at least I can start by hand and drive them in, and I apologize if all you're seeing right now is my hand and not the screws. This is a nicely made reel. The one that I really liked in the Fin-Nor Spin series was the Offshore series, the OFS. It was a very nice, well-made saltwater reel. Really punched above its class. Well, once you put a little oil on there, they certainly go in easier than the way they were removed. Pretty straightforward design, as mentioned. I don't think you can get in trouble with this. Materials seem high quality. Nice reel. It's a shame that they're not making the reels under the Fin-Nor brand any longer. Make sure these get tightened down. If you leave them proud, they could bump up on the bottom of the rotor. Alright, we've oiled the two bearings. Next up, we can re-grease our cleaned oscillation gear. This gets grease everywhere. Gets grease into the teeth and on the front and the back, and with that bearing even a little bit into the inner track there. Everything on this gear. This is a hard worker, probably the hardest working piece in the reel. Touches everything. Next up is the crosswind block. You only need grease on the back end of the crosswind block, and make sure it gets seated over the stud. And when you do go to set this reel, make sure the stud is resting on the bottom of the cycle. And we'll grease the main gear. You want to get both the front and the back. And we can insert that now. I'm probably getting ahead of myself because I'm probably going to put the rotor on and have all these pieces fall out. Let's see what we can do here. Rotor's on. Every now and then I treat the one as though it has the lower case that has to go in first. That's why those pieces got in there. Tighten that up. And then this is probably going to have to be adjusted. Oh, we got it right. That doesn't happen all the time. You need to make sure that the rotor nut fits to the inner grooves of that tie-down clamp. That's one. Here's the other. This is all very encouraging. I only have one bearing sitting in my parts tray other than the case screws and the screw for my axle shaft. Do the same on the bearings here, top and bottom. Oil those. And I oil bearings, I don't grease them. Grease tends to hold microsalts and sands, and it's unfortunate, but they get inside the case and they start rubbing up against the ball bearings, and then they erode them and they make them noisy. That axle shaft came down and got seated into the crosswind block. And for whatever reason, this one is a Torx. I don't know why they did it. It was the only Torx screw in the whole reel. I'm going to assume it came that way. But why it came that way is something of a mystery. We have two shim washers that are on the main post. Last of the bearings. And again, this is a substantial reel. This is well made. Fin-Nor's case goes on now. Make sure you get that nice click-clack there when you're installing. Okay, and we have four screws now. Start with the one on the bottom to hold the case together. And we'll just finish out these. Before we leave the reel, we're going to do a service on the drag washers, so make sure you stick around for that. That service on the drag washers applies to almost all top drag washers and reels. Once you finish tightening that last screw, go make sure that the others are all tightened as well. This one, it's going to work on a charter boat. There's a lot of vibrations that happen on those boats. So just make sure they're tied down and not going to be shaken free. All right, put the handle on here. This reel is missing a little cap for the handle on the other side. I'm going to try and find him one, but right now we don't have that cap. All right, set that aside. Let's take a look at what we have here in the drag washers. Again, fairly common. And again, this is used on a charter boat, so you want to make sure that the drags are in good condition, that they're not smoked or anything. You know, you catch one big fish on these things, you can tear those drag washers up pretty quickly. And we'll see what kind of drag washer set is in here and if they're okay. We have a lot of drag capacity in this reel. We have Carbon Tex washers in here. So that's a good choice. And we have a traditional 6-washer set with a backing washer that goes in first. These are Carbon Tex washers. They're optional to grease. If you do put a grease on, only a light coat. Carbon Tex washers are not absorbent, non-permeable, so does little effect to try and grease them up for any purpose. The keyed washer goes in next. That's the one with the rectangle. Here's your second of your eared washers, which fit in the slots. Last of the drag washers, and then you have the thicker keyed washer, which is topside. That's your drag service. Bring this on. We've already oiled those bearings. Seat your spool down. Tighten it up. Didn't have it all the way down there. Sure that it holds, and then back it off. Let's give it a final test then. So what did we do? Well, we got a Fin-Nor LT60 in for service from a charter boat captain. His name is Harry. Runs off the New Jersey coast. We wanted to make sure it was ready to go fishing this spring. We took the reel completely apart, piece by piece. We showed you how they were made, the quality of the reel, and the bearings inside. We showed you how to clean them up, how to reassemble the reel, how to lubricate the reel, and let's just give it a test, make sure everything's working nice and free and easy, which it is. Make sure that bail is working too. Nice snap to the bail. This one's ready to go. All I have to do, I told Harry I would try and find a cap for the missing one, and well, when the video is completed, I'll go see if I can scout one up here in the shop. I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I want to thank you, the channel viewer in particular, for watching this and making this channel so successful. I appreciate your loyalty, your viewership, and again, I ask you to subscribe if you haven't subscribed before, and if you like the video, please like it. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.